you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
So,
Um, if you could just give us a little introduction of yourself and your company, just what exactly you guys do.
absolutely. This is Mohit. I'm a startup operator and entrepreneur. Uh, I was the chief marketing officer at Nestaway in my most recent stint, right? And you know, uh, did growth marketing strategy acquisition there. Was part of the core team. Was there for about 5 odd years before the company got acquired and got sold to another publicly listed entity in India. Right, Nestaway was India's largest home rental platform. Right, in fact, it still is. We manage more than about 40,000 odd properties, 70,000 odd tenants. Help 70,000 odd tenants find a house. Right, present across 20 odd cities in India. Have raised more than $120 million in venture capital. From top tier investors like Tiger Global, Goldman Sachs, etc. Right. Prior to Nestaway, I used to run my own startup. Founded it, raised money for it, and was part of that for about 6 years. My startup was basically around helping Indian SMEs go online, very similar to say what Shopify does in the US and other developed markets.
So obviously you've been a leader everywhere that you've all the companies that you've been with. And that's what our class is about, it's leadership. Um, what practices do you follow to maintain leadership standards across the company?
So I think, see, two, three things, right? One, we obviously live in a data-driven world today, right? So having a data-driven approach to a lot, everything that you do and most of the things that you do is important, right? So that's super critical, right? At the same time, uh, you know, uh, data-driven approach to decision making is super important, right? In everything that you do, right? From say measuring the business metrics to also evaluating your colleagues, your teammates, etc. Right? So that's one thing. The other thing, of course, is especially and I can talk about startups. You have to be extremely demanding of yourself as well as your team, right? But at the same time, be also understanding because most times you're operating in a constrained environment, right? So in that scenario, you need to sort of balance both approaches. So basically, being demanding yet understanding is, I think, another leadership principle that I sort of follow,
Mhm.
right? And
Mohit discusses the importance of being demanding while remaining understanding, this balance between setting high standards or being task oriented and being empathetic or relationship oriented, reflects the duality often found in leadership styles. Leaders may need to adapt their approach based on the situation and the individuals they lead.
the last thing would be, I think it's in today's world, it's super important, that you lead from the front, right? So what it means is that, let's say in case of Nestaway, for example, if you expect your team to be on ground to be able to, show properties to consumers, right? You can't just sit back and relax. You also have to lead from the front, demonstrate, show uh, uh, before you can sort of start expecting the same from your team members and your co-workers, etc. So
Principles such as being data driven, demanding yet understanding, and leading by example resonate with Kouzes and Posner's 5 practices of exemplary leadership. These practices include modeling the way, inspiring shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, and encouraging the heart.
yeah.
And sort of with that, are there any sort of personal qualities or traits that you look for in your followers or that you look for in yourself that you think make you a good leader?
I think empathy is super important, Carolyn, right? So, uh, you need to, and a lot of times empathy gets misunderstood by people, uh, and you can be misconstrued as a maybe like a weak leader or a meek leader, or somebody who's soft on people and all that. But a lot of times empathy is about telling people where they're slipping, where they're going wrong, or uh, how their work impacts, not just them, but also, let's say, the colleagues, the team, and the entire organization overall, right? So how do you sort of show them the larger picture, have a very micro and a macro view, at both points, as a startup operator, or as a startup founder, or as a leader. I think it's important that you have your eyes and ears on the ground, but you also have like a sort of a long term vision, or a long term horizon on how you plan to build something out, right? So I think both things are important.
Mohit discusses leadership traits such as empathy, a balance between micro and macro views, and a focus on the organization and the team's well being. This aligns with the trait approach to leadership, which emphasizes the inherent characteristics and qualities that make influential leaders.
That
Said we've just talked a little bit about morality in our class. How important do you think morality is in leadership?
Hmm. I think morality is, of course, is important, but morality can also be very subjective. At least it can be sort of you know uh, construed as a very subjective concept, right? But is that we always used to follow at Nestaway, which at least keeps you in the right state of mind, right frame of mind whenever you are taking any important decisions, right? Is that we always used to say, Nestaway first, team second, and individual third, right? And that's the principle that we sort of kind of lived by. And when it it comes to taking decisions where maybe something is looking ambiguous, you're not very sure, at least if you pass it through that lens, and if you feel that what you're doing is right, where you're putting the organization first, hopefully everything else then looks a lot simpler.
The emphasis on having a long term vision, prioritizing the organization's well being, and understanding the impact of individual work on the team and the organization reflects elements of transformational leadership. Transformational leaders inspire and motivate by articulating a compelling vision and fostering a strong sense of purpose.
Recently, we have gone through favoritism, how it applies for the leader. So, do leaders get favoritism on a team member? And if so, how will you sort of deal with the favoritism on the member to do not disturb the team which is built by you?
I mean, I think favoritism shouldn't be viewed negatively, right? In my view, I think we should look at it from the lens of, let's say, for example, if a leader is preferring a particular teammate, right? Is that happening because of the initiative that teammate may have shown, right? Or the kind of attitude that person is bringing to the table, right? Uh, how reliable is that person, etc., etc., right?
Real world leadership scenarios, such as Mohit's, represent various leadership theories and principles. They demonstrate the idea that effective leadership often involves a combination of traits, practices, and ethical considerations.